Okay, so we're going to be looking at the origins of the book of Deuteronomy. First Kings chapters 22 to 23 plays a central role in the discussion about the origins of the book of Deuteronomy. These chapters relate how a scroll was found in the 18th year of Josiah's reign in the Temple of Jerusalem during renovation work. The discovery by the priest Hilkiah and the reading of this scroll to the king by the high official Shaphan provokes a very strong reaction. Josiah seems heavily affected by the curses of the book. What do we read? 2 Kings 22. And it was in the 18th year of King Josiah that the king sent Shaphan, the son of Azaliah, the son of Mesullam, the scribe, to the house of Yudhe-Vavhe, saying, Go up to Hilkiah, the high priest, and let him gather up all the silver that was brought to the house of Yudhe-Vavhe, that the keepers of the utensils collected from the people, and let them give it into the hand of the foremen of the work, who are appointed in the house of Yudhe-Vavhe, and let them give it to the workers who are in the house of Yudhe-Vavhe, to repair the damage of the temple, to the carpenters and to the builders and to the masons, and to purchase wood and quarried stones to strengthen the temple. Everything that I have highlighted here, I would come back to. It is extremely important. However, no reckoning shall be made with them of the silver that is given into their hands, for they deal honestly. And Hilkiah the high priest said to Shaphan the scribe, I have found the scroll of the law in the house of Yudhe-Vavhe. And Hilkiah gave the scroll to Shaphan, and he read it. And Shaphan the scribe came to the king and brought back word to the king and said, Your servants have melted the silver that was found in the temple, and they have given it into the hands of the foremen of the work who were appointed over the house of Yudhe-Vavhe. And Shaphan the scribe told the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest gave me a scroll. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it was when the king heard the words of the scroll of the law that he rent his garment. Okay, what happens next? Josiah sent Hilkiah, Shaphan, and other officials to the prophetess Huldah to inquire about the meaning of the scroll. Huldah confirms the divine judgment which Yudhe-Vavhe will bring on Jerusalem and Judah. As for King Josiah, Huldah says he will be buried in peace. After his officials have transmitted the message, Josiah himself reads the book for the whole people and then engages in a treaty with Yudhe-Vavhe. This is what we read. And Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam, and Achbor, and Shaphan, and Asaiah went to Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shulam, the son of Tikvah, the son of Ahaz, the keeper of the raiment. And she was sitting in Jerusalem in the study hall, and they spoke to her. And she said to them, So has Yudhe-Vavhe Elohim of Israel spoken. Say to the man who sent you to me, So has Yudhe-Vavhe said, Behold, I bring calamity to this place, and upon its inhabitants all the words of the scroll that the king of Judah read. Because they have forsaken me and have burnt incense to pagan deities in order to provoke me with all the deeds of their hands, my wrath is kindled against this place, and it shall not be quenched. And concerning the king of Judah who has sent you to inquire of Yudhe-Vavhe, so shall you say to him, So has Yudhe-Vavhe Elohim of Israel said, The words are what you heard, since your heart has become soft, and you have humbled yourself before Yudhe-Vavhe. when you heard what I spoke about this place and about its inhabitants, to become a desolation and a curse, and you rent your garments and wept before me, I too have heard it, says Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Therefore, behold, I gather you into your forefathers, and you shall be gathered into your graves in peace, and your eyes shall not see any of the calamity that I am bringing upon this place. And they brought back word to the king. What happens next? Then Josiah starts to undertake important cultic modifications in Jerusalem and Judah. He eliminates the cultic symbols and the priests of the deities Baal and Asherah and of the celestial army, which alludes to the veneration of sun, moon, and stars. He also defiles and destroys the Bamot, open sanctuaries, the high places for the veneration of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, as well as the Tophet, apparently a place for human sacrifices. He even demolishes the altar at Bethel, the former official Yahwistic sanctuary of Israel. So Josiah does all this. We read it in 2 Kings 23. And the king commanded Hilkiah, the high priest, and the priest of the second rank, and the guards of the threshold, to take out of the temple of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh all the utensils that were made for the Baal and for the Asherah and for the entire host of the heaven. And he burned them outside Jerusalem in the plains of Kidron, and he carried their ashes to Bethel. And he abolished the pagan priests whom the kings of Judah had appointed, and who had burnt incense on the high places in the cities of Judah and the environs of Jerusalem, and those who burnt incense to the Baal, to the sun, to the moon, and to the constellations, and to all the hosts of heaven. And he took the Asherah out of the house of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh to the outside of Jerusalem, to the Kidron Valley, and he burnt it in the Kidron Valley, and he pulverized it into dust. And he threw its dust on the graves of the members of the people. And he demolished the houses devoted to pagan worship that were in the house of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, where the women weave enclosures for the Asherah. And he brought all the priests from the cities of Judah, and he defiled the high places where the priest had burnt incense, from Gibah as far as Beersheba. And he demolished the high places near the gates, the one that was at the entrance of the gate of Joshua, the mayor of the city, which is on a person's left to the gate of the city. However, the priests of the high places would not go up to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh's altar in Jerusalem, but they would eat unleavened cakes among their brethren. And he defiled the Tophet that was in the valley of Ben Hinnom, so that no man will pass his son or his daughter in the fire to the Molech. And also, verse 15, the altar that was in Bethel, the high place that Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who caused Israel to sin, had made. Also that altar and the high place he demolished. And he burned the high place. He pulverized it and burned it. Now, we know that early Jewish commentators, as well as some church fathers, already identify the book mentioned here in 2 Kings 22 and 23 as the book of Deuteronomy. Why is it? Why did they say that the book that was found is actually the book of Deuteronomy? Well, it's because the acts of Josiah and the ideology of centralization, which sustains Josiah's reform, seem to agree with the prescription of the Deuteronomic law. This is why they come to that conclusion, and I do agree with that conclusion. Now, this is a big story. We've read a lot of scriptures, a lot of verses. It has many details. So it makes us forget to ask very important questions. Yes, I agree that the book that was found is Deuteronomy, but the story is so big, it may be so captivating that we forget to slow down to ask very important questions. Let's go back to 2 Kings 22. Like I said, when I was reading this, everything that I've highlighted is important. Let's read it again, this time slowly. And it was in the 18th year of King Josiah that the king sent Shaphan, the son of Azaliah, the son of Meshullam, the scribe, to the house of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, saying, Go up to Hilkiah the high priest, and let him gather up all the silver that was brought to the house of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, that the keepers of the utensils collected from the people, and let them give it into the hands of the foreman of the work, who are appointed in the house of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, and let them give it to the workers who are in the house of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh to repair the damage of the temple. So construction work is being said to be done. Put that in your spirit. To the carpenters and to the builders and to the masons and to purchase wood and quarried stones to strengthen the temple. Okay. However, no reckoning shall be made with them of the silver that is given into their hands, for they deal honestly. My focus here, verses 8. And Hilkiah the high priest said to Shaphan the scribe, I have found the scroll of the law in the house of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. And Hilkiah gave the scroll to Shaphan, and he read it. Verses 10. And Shaphan the scribe told the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest gave me a scroll, and Shaphan read it before the king. The question that we don't pause to ask because we are captivated so much with the stories or with the reform that Josiah is doing is, how come the book was found now, when construction work was being asked to be done? Or another question we don't ask is, when was this book written? When was it found? When construction works was going on? Okay. What we have here is what we call the book finding motif. Now, this book finding motif is indeed a very common concept in ancient literature and is usually employed in order to legitimize changes in religious, economical, or political matters. That means that the story about the restoration of the temple and the discovery of the book in 2 Kings 22 is most probably a complex literary construction based on Near Eastern motifs. We see the same motif in Mesopotamia and Egypt. The origin of the book-finding motif is situated in the deposit of foundational tablets in Mesopotamian sanctuaries, which are often rediscovered by later kings, pay attention here, undertaking restoration work. In Babylonian royal inscriptions, the discovery reports are often variations of the following pattern. Look at the pattern. An important person, a king or a prince, wants to undertake political or cultic changes, which are often presented as a restoration of an initial state. He is afraid of opposition. He or one of his loyal servants is sent to a holy place. There he discovers a written document of divine origin. This discovery gives divine impulse to the project of the monarch. This is what we have when it comes to book finding motifs in the ancient Near East. Of special interest are Nabonidus inscriptions. What do we have? This is the Nabonidus cylinder of Sippar. Nabonidus inspired to appear as the discoverer of numerous documents. All his reports follow the same outline. An important person or a king prince wants to undertake political or cultic changes. He is afraid of opposition. He or one of his loyal servants is sent to a holy place. There he discovers a written document of divine origin. This discovery gives divine impulse to the project of the monarch. In the cylinder from Sippar, Nabonidus tells the following story. He wanted to rebuild the temple belonging to Shamash in Zippah. This is the story that he tells, a book-finding motif. A former king had searched for the ancient foundation stone without any success. On his own initiative, he had built a new temple for Shamash, but it was not built good enough for his reign. The wall sagged and risked a breakdown. I supplicated him, offered him sacrifices, and was searching for his decisions. Shamash, the very high lord, had chosen me from the earliest days on. I made investigations and gathered the ancients of the town, the Babylonians, the architect, the wise men. I told them, look for the ancient foundation stone. Take care of the sanctuary of the judge Shamash. The erudite person looked for the ancient stone of foundation, imploring Shamash, my lord, and praying to the great gods. They inspected the apartment. I have seen the ancient foundation stone of Naram-Zin, the former king, the real sanctuary of Shamash, the dwelling place of his divinity. My heart exulted and my face was radiant. According to this text, the foundation stone contains the document of the original temple and enables Nabonidus to undertake his restoration works. A book finding motif. Now we have the same in Egypt. We have an Egyptian variant of this motif. It occurs in the final rubric of the 64th chapter of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. In chapter 64 is actually presented as having been found in the temple and as going back to the very origins of Egypt. Just like the book of Deuteronomy, we are told goes to Moshe, the origins of the state of Israel. Let's look at the Papyrus of Anu, which contains the following texts. This chapter was found in the city of Kerunu, under the feet of the god during the reign of His Majesty, the King of the North and the South. triumphant. By the rule of the son, he ruled, whatever how you pronounce that. He found it when he was journeying about to make an inscription of the temples. He brought it to the king as a wonderful object, when he saw that it was a thing of great mystery, which had never been seen or looked upon. This chapter shall be recited by a man who is ceremonially clean and pure. Here, the papyrus of Anu in chapter 64 is presented as having been found in the Sokharis temple and as going back to the very origins of Egypt. It is quite clear that the authors or the redactors of 2 Kings 22:23 resort to the same literary convention. Right after finding the book, what happens? Exactly what we find in the ancient Near East. Exactly what we find in the pattern of book finding motifs. That is what we find. And like I have shown you, it's quite clear that the authors or the redactors of 2 Kings 22, which is part of what we call the Deuteronomistic writings, resort to the same literary convention. This is the pattern that Josiah's reform is taken after. Why don't we ask the necessary questions for the book to open up?